8 years ago, one small mistake shattered my entire world, and I didn't even realize it until it was too late. I still remember the night everything changed, how a single lie turned into a storm that ripped through my life, leaving me standing alone in the ruins of a relationship I once believed would last forever. Back then, I was naive, blindly loyal, and willing to give every part of myself to someone who only saw my love as something to use and manipulate. I ignored the red flags, the whispered warnings from friends, the uneasy feeling in my own chest. Because when you're in love, you convince yourself that pain is temporary and loyalty will fix everything. But nothing could have prepared me for the betrayal that followed. When the truth finally surfaced, it hit me so hard that I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. I walked away silently, not because I was weak, but because I no longer had the strength to fight for someone who never fought for me. I thought the story ended there, buried under the weight of heartbreak and silence. What I didn't know then was that life was quietly keeping score. Karma was watching, waiting, and preparing a twist I could have never imagined, one that would prove that the universe never forgets the pain someone causes. And sooner or later, every action comes back home. When I first met her, everything in my life felt strangely complete, like someone had pressed pause on all my worries just long enough for me to breathe again. She was charming in a quiet way, with this soft laugh that made you forget everything wrong with the world. We started talking casually, then constantly, then all the time, until it became impossible to imagine a day without her voice. The connection felt natural, effortless, like we were two people who somehow knew each other long before we ever exchanged names. She would tell me her dreams, the kind of things she said she never shared with anyone. I felt special, chosen, needed. And for someone who always struggled to feel enough, her attention felt like sunlight, warm, comforting, and addictive. I didn't realize it back then, but sometimes the brightness of someone's presence blinds you from seeing the shadows they carry. I gave her everything I had without hesitation, my trust, my time, my loyalty. I believed love was something you proved, not something you balanced. And so, without knowing it, I willingly built a foundation for someone who would one day use my heart as a stepping stone toward their own selfish desires. Little things started changing, but I convinced myself it was normal. She became distant, then overly affectionate, then cold again, all within the same week. Her phone suddenly had a password, though she swore it was just for privacy. She would get overly defensive whenever I asked simple questions, turning small conversations into arguments I never meant to start. But every time I tried to express how I felt, she flipped the script, making me believe I was too sensitive, too clingy, too insecure. Looking back now, that was the first sign of manipulation. She knew exactly how to twist my emotions, just enough to keep me quiet while she did whatever she wanted behind the scenes. Friends tried to warn me, but I brushed it off. I told myself I was overthinking, that love meant trusting someone even when it felt hard. I didn't realize I wasn't trusting her, I was abandoning myself. She would disappear for hours, sometimes even days, only to come back acting like nothing happened. And every time she smiled at me, every time she held my hand, I let the red flags fade into the background. I was too afraid of losing her to admit I was already losing myself. The truth didn't reveal itself gently, it exploded. I discovered everything in one heartbreaking moment when a message popped up on her phone while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. The screen simply lit up, and there it was, a message from another guy calling her baby and thanking her for an amazing night. My heart stopped. I remember staring at the screen, feeling like every beat of my pulse was collapsing inward. When she came out, wet hair dripping onto the floor, she froze. For the first time, she wasn't angry or defensive, she was scared. Not scared of losing me, but scared that her hidden life had finally come to light. She tried to deny it, then tried to turn it around, then finally admitted she wasn't happy and needed excitement. Her excuses were sharp, shallow, and cruel. She said I was too stable, too predictable, too easy. And just like that, everything I had built with her, the late night talks, the promises, the dreams fell apart in front of me. I left her standing in the doorway, still arguing with herself, while I walked away silently. That silence was the loudest, most painful moment of my life. The days after the breakup felt like walking through a thick fog. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't even think straight. Every memory replayed itself like a broken movie stuck on repeat. I kept wondering what I could have done differently, what mistake I made, how I failed. But deep down, I knew I wasn't the one who broke anything she did. Still, heartbreak has its own logic, and it doesn't care about truth. I isolated myself, barely spoke to anyone, and drowned myself in work just to keep my mind busy. Nights were the worst. Loneliness has a way of sneaking into the room when everything else goes quiet. That's when the self-blame felt heaviest. I didn't realize it back then, but this phase wasn't punishment, it was cleansing. The pain was forcing me to let go of someone I should have walked away from long ago. Slowly, I began rebuilding myself piece by piece. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't fast, but it was real. And while she was out chasing temporary thrills, I was learning resilience, self-respect, and a kind of strength that only heartbreak can teach. Time didn't heal everything, but it healed enough for me to start moving again. I began focusing on myself, my goals, my health, my career. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned during the relationship, started hitting the gym, and actually began enjoying my own company. Slowly, people around me noticed the change. They said I looked lighter, more confident, more alive. I realized the relationship had drained me far more than I ever admitted. Without her chaos, my life finally had space for peace. And in that peace, I discovered who I actually was. I worked harder, got better opportunities, made new friends, and started living with a purpose that wasn't tied to anyone else. I didn't plan to glow up out of revenge, it just happened because healing does something beautiful to you. It turns wounds into wisdom and pain into power. And while I wasn't thinking about her anymore, life had a funny way of making sure she wasn't done thinking about me. Because the moment I started rising, her world quietly started to crumble. It started with a message I didn't expect. One of her friends reached out, saying things weren't going well for her. The guy she cheated with had cheated on her multiple times. Her job wasn't stable anymore, and the people she once tried to impress had slowly backed away from her drama. Apparently, she was struggling emotionally, posting vague quotes online about trust and loyalty. The same things she once threw away like they meant nothing. At first, I didn't react. I just read the messages quietly, feeling neither happiness nor revenge, just closure. Karma wasn't loud, dramatic, or vengeful. It was slow and precise, hitting exactly where it hurt the most. She had traded something real for something temporary, and now the temporary had vanished, leaving her with nothing. Meanwhile, my life was becoming better than ever. For the first time, I realized karma wasn't about punishing someone, it was about restoring balance. What you put out into the world eventually returns to you. And she was getting everything she once gave me, but worse. One evening, out of nowhere, she called me. I stared at the screen, surprised at the name glowing back at me. After a deep breath, I answered. Her voice was shaky, softer than I remembered. She asked how I was, tried to make small talk, but I could hear the real reason beneath her words. She wanted something. Finally, she admitted her life had fallen apart. She said she regretted everything, that she didn't know what she had, that she missed the way I made her feel safe. It was strange hearing. The same person who once treated me like an option now sounded desperate for the stability she destroyed. She asked if we could meet, maybe start over. And in that moment, I felt something unexpected: peace. Not love, not anger, just closure. I told her the truth, that I had healed, moved on, and wasn't someone she could return to now that her choices had consequences. She stayed silent for a long time before whispering, "I didn't think you changed this much." I replied, "You're right. I didn't change. I just stopped allowing you to break me." Then I ended the call. Weeks later, I heard the final chapter of her story, not from her, but from the same friend who had updated me before. The guy she cheated with had publicly humiliated her, spreading lies and leaving her reputation damaged. She tried rebuilding her life, but everywhere she turned, doors closed on her. People remembered how she treated others. Trust is easy to lose and almost impossible to regain. Meanwhile, I was in a better place than ever, emotionally stable, successful, surrounded by people who valued me. The universe had drawn a clear line between the two paths we chose. She followed temptation, and it led her to emptiness. I followed healing, and it led me to growth. The final karma wasn't her suffering, it was my peace. The fact that I no longer felt anything toward her was the real victory. She became a chapter in my story, but I became a lesson in hers. And that lesson was simple. When you betray someone who genuinely loves you, life eventually takes away everything you betrayed them for. Karma didn't to forget, it simply waited for the perfect moment to return the truth to its rightful place. In the end, I realized the greatest form of revenge was never anger, bitterness, or trying to make her feel what I once felt. It was becoming someone she could no longer reach, someone stronger, wiser, and completely healed. What happened between us wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a version of me I never knew I could become. Pain pushed me to grow, heartbreak taught me to value myself, and distance showed me what real peace feels like. And as life unfolded, I saw the truth with absolute clarity. Karma doesn't rush, it simply arrives when the lesson is ready. She faced the consequences of her choices, and I found the life I always deserved, one built on respect, honesty, and real love. Looking back now, I don't regret walking away. I regret not choosing myself sooner. But that's the beauty of healing. It turns even the darkest moments into stepping stones. My story isn't about revenge, it's about rise. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The universe always balances the scales. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, everything and everyone finds their rightful place.